Our family does a lot of camping, as much as we possibly can. It's not easy to do it all the time because we have school and work and um, activities like soccer and football that get in the way, but we do it as much as possible. And after we got our travel trailer, which is when we really got back into camping 8 years ago, one of the things we discovered was that when we're traveling, it really is the ideal way for our family to find lodging. And there's lots of places to camp. There's a lot of options. If you're a camper, there are all these private campgrounds everywhere. As you're driving down the interstate, you see all these private campgrounds everywhere, whether they're big name ones like Jellystone or KOA, or just family owned ones. There are a lot of options, but we've tried to make it our priority to do state parks as much as possible. And I talked to my husband, we were trying to figure out, okay, so why do we really decide to prioritize the state parks as much as possible? And we came up with 5 that we feel are pretty solid reasons why, if you are a camper and you use a even if you use a travel trailer or a fifth wheel or a C-Class, you should, if you can, try to make state parks a priority as you're booking places to go during any time, whether it's a pandemic or otherwise. The first reason that we came up with for why you should be looking at using state parks is affordability. Living in Texas, which is where we live now, the cheapest state park site that we are able to get has been $15 for the night, and that's with electrical hookup and water. We don't get full hookup with $15 a night, but there's still dump stations and it works out just fine. I think across the country, the most we've ever paid for a state park site has been $35. And sometimes there are additional fees on top of that because you usually have to pay for entrance fees and things like that. But it's still a lot cheaper than the vast majority of places that you're going to find, unless it's one of those really small family-owned businesses on the side of the road. I mean, we've paid up to $90 a night when we've stayed at a name brand place, when we've had to go places like the national parks, and the closest place that we could find to those national parks was somewhere between $75 and $90 a night. So if you can, the state parks typically, as you go across the country, are going to be your cheapest bet. The second reason is space. We like the fact that when we go to a state park, we don't just have a place to park our travel trailer and our vehicle, but we have a nice picnic area. We have a space where our dogs can be on a tie out, on 2 different tie outs, and they can play and they can take care of their business. There's more space for our kids to play on our campsite, as opposed to having to send them somewhere else, and therefore they're with the family. And we're not right next to our neighbors. That's one of the disadvantages of staying at any private campground, is typically you are going to be right next to your neighbor. So even if you have full hookup, and even if you have all of those really nice amenities for a single night, you're still right next to people. And this is something that for us bothered us even before COVID, is we liked knowing that we could have conversations with our family after being on the road all day, and we didn't have to worry about having the people right next to us. And that is a good thing. So we see the space that you can have to play and have recreation right on your site, and also to not be on top of each other and to not be bothering the people next to you, is a really big advantage for us. We've also appreciate, as a third reason, the fact that you're out in nature. Now, for us, camping isn't just about having a somewhat more affordable way for us to travel. It is about getting our family out into nature, and it's about getting our kids out into nature and just being away from everything. And if you're in the state parks, you are surrounded by nature. It's not just that you're outside the city or anything like that. You are truly as close to nature as you're going to get typically. There was one state park that we stayed at that we've had deer walk right into our campsite, and we've had to keep our kids from going and chasing down the deer. We've had armadillos since we live in Texas. We've had armadillos just go across our campsite, and so we've gotten a little bit up close and personal with them. Yes, there are other wildlife that you might not want to get really close to, but it's good to be out in nature, to be able to look up at the stars and see a really starry night. Even when you're close to a city, there still is a lot that you can see at night as opposed to just being right on top of everybody at a campground, at a private campground. Recently we stayed at a state park that was right across the lake from a nuclear power plant. And while we could hear the nuclear power plant at night when we went outside and we were walking around, we still could see all the stars, and we were still able to see the animals, and we were still able to just be out and be, which was what our family desperately needed. There's also the opportunity as a fourth reason. A fourth reason is more active recreation. So we don't do hotels well. We've never done hotels well. I think part of that is because our kids started camping when they were 2 and 4. And so now when we have to stay at a hotel for whatever reason, they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what to do with their bodies. They don't know what to do with all the pent up energy after being in the car all day. And when we're camping, we can just tell them to get on their bikes and ride around the loop. Or now that they're older, they'll walk around and they'll explore the campsite and they'll see everything that's around, even though I'm yelling at them to watch out for snakes or whatever. When they were a little bit younger, they were really eager to get on the playgrounds, and so they would go to the playground if they could do that. We've taken morning hikes. If we've had a overnight stay somewhere, so we're staying somewhere for 18 hours, we've done morning hikes where we've just said, we're just going to go and hike this morning because we know we're going to be in the car for the next 6 to 7 hours. So let's just stretch our legs and get out on a hike. When we've been able to stay places longer because it's close enough to where we're going to be exploring, it gives us a chance to freely walk our dogs, to have the kids get some recreation in the morning before we go off and we do stuff. It is why you camp, or it should be why you camp. You should be camping because you want to be as close to nature as possible. And if you stay at a state park, you are going to be as close to nature as you possibly can be, especially if you take advantage of the trails, whether they're hiking or biking or kayaking or whatever they are. You're going to fish for a night. Okay, so that's just one of the things that you're going to be able to do. There's the chance to learn. So a good fifth reason is that this gives your kids a chance to learn and explore outside of the classroom. I'm a huge believer in hands-on learning and hands-on exploring. Our kids do the Junior Ranger books at every national park and national historic site and national memorial that we go to. But the state park system, at least in Texas, and we discovered in Indiana, and we've discovered this at a couple other places in a couple other states too, if they have a pretty decent nature center, if they have a pretty decent ranger program, it gives you a chance to take them out and explore things and see things and do things and learn from experts besides you, and besides reading signs. So they can learn a lot in that course of time that you're at the state park, which is a really good thing for kids of all ages. It doesn't matter what their age is. Over one Christmas break, we were traveling out to Palo Duro Canyon, which is in the panhandle of Texas, and we stopped at another state park that had an amazing fort. And so we explored the fort the morning before. It was an overnight stay, And so instead of going hiking, we went to the fort and we explored the fort, and the kids learned all about the settling of the West and settling of Texas. And then they learned some more about Native American tribes and how the settling of Texas affected Native American tribes. And it was good for the whole family. We learned all this extra stuff about Texas history that we didn't expect to learn on our vacation. So it was a bonus, and it was a really good bonus for our whole family. A really good reason to visit the state park system is the state parks across the country are seriously underfunded. They tend to be one of the last government programs of every state that gets funding. They struggle to keep staffs open. They struggle to be able to upgrade facilities so that more people can visit. And if we want to raise kids who appreciate nature, and we want to raise kids who are good stewards of their earthly home, and if we want to really support programs that should be supported around the country, the best way to do it is to visit them and to give them our money. And instead of giving it to a hotel chain or giving it to a big camping chain, you can give it to a state park, and you can give the money to them, and they can use that money to help fund more programs and to help improve the systems across their states. And you can find state parks in every single state in the union. We've stayed at state parks in Colorado and New Mexico and Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas and Michigan and Indiana and Illinois and Wisconsin, Kentucky. We're planning another vacation right now where we were able to find state park stays in, I think, 6 different places, so 6 different states. And we're really excited about those. So it takes a little bit extra work, but I highly recommend it. If, as you are planning your summer vacations, or as you're planning spring breaks, or any other vacation that you're planning, give the state park system a try. There are a lot of options, and even if you aren't camping in a tent or camping in a travel trailer, a lot more state parks are starting to have other facilities available, like cabins or shelters or even yurts. We've seen an increase in yurts in different state parks. So give it a shot, try something new, get out into nature, and have a good vacation.